Hello farmers, thank you for tuning in to yet another informative edition of your program. This is Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. Now in line with our horticultural recovery plan that is being pushed by our government through the Ministry of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development, this week we've taken the liberty of inviting Clemens Mcharedze. He is a vegetable agronomist who's going to be talking to us in terms of onion production. We are standing in a demonstration field that is meant for trials to ensure that when farmers come to look at these fields, they learn and they have an appreciation of the varieties that they seek to purchase. Clemens, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Waza.
Yes. As we get into our discussion, Clemens, can you give us a brief background of onion production in Zimbabwe? I am talking of those popular varieties that our farmers usually produce when it comes to producing their onions in Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much. Yes, onion, it has been grown in the country for quite some time. But farmers, they mainly grow the open pollinated variety. Mainly, we call them table market onion. That is mainly Texas grano. That is a common variety that farmers grow. But it is a challenge now. As you know, onion can only be grown once in a year.
Yes.
That is, we do seedlings from January right up to April. And you see that from time to time or every year, normally we have a shortage of onion from February right up to September, October, thereabout. So onion is also harvested in the months of September right up to November. So you see there will be a glut of onion on the market. There will be quite a lot of it on the market because that variety normally people they do not cannot be stored. So they have to offload it onto the market. So you would see there will be a dip in terms of price on the market from September right up to December. So other varieties that are done commercially, because farmers who take farming seriously, they will now do the hybrid varieties that can be stored for a long time. That is from 4 to 6 months on shelf life. So that is what we are actually putting onto farmers to say, grow hybrid varieties that can last you longer.
Can you talk about the purpose of trial plots or demonstration plots?
Thank you very much. The purposes of trialing these varieties, it is because onion is a very, it's delicate in terms of how you should grow it, and it comes in slots. There are some varieties that you cannot transplant in February, that you cannot transplant in April, that you cannot transplant in June. Remember, here in Zimbabwe, generally, we grow what we call short day onions. So when you transplant them, remember, will be in winter. So we need that chilling effect that happens during winter. So when we are doing different varieties, we'll be trying to trial different varieties. Remember, these farmers, they always give their comments to say, this variety is quite good, but it has shorter lifespan. But this variety, maybe it does well maybe in Nyanyazi. It does not do well possibly in Harare, Mount Abden. So trialing these varieties in different areas, it will make us be able now to recommend the right variety that can be grown in each area that is in this country. But mostly what we'll be doing is to try and have a variety that takes the countrywide, that can be grown from Harare right up to Chipinge, to Nyakomba, everywhere in this country. So that's why we have different varieties that you may see here. They will be in different stages of growth and also maturing.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, Clemens, you would find that generally our farmers might want to know, for some reason, people are hyped with wanting to invest in greenhouse infrastructure. Is there a difference between open field onions and those that are grown in greenhouses? Or you can still remain viable and profitable in your onion venture still on open field?
I would say for you to be able to construct a greenhouse that can actually take for a hectare also, it could be quite costly.
Yes.
And normally what you can do for the greenhouse is for those who want to do their seedlings business, so that they can do them much earlier during the rain season. That is beginning of December going into January and February. Those who want to be early on the market, those are the ones who can actually do their seedlings in the greenhouse. But for you now to do the whole field in an under greenhouse, remember, with commercial production, it's a game of numbers.
Yes.
We really want farmers to do 40 hectares of onion each farmer. We have quite a number of farmers like that in this country that are doing bigger hectarage in terms of onion production. So if they could do it open field, it's much better. But it's a main thrust is on the selection of the variety to grow.
Now, Clemens, what are we looking at in terms of, before I talk about yield per hectare, let us talk about plant population per hectare for onions. And the other thing that I would also want to touch on is period up to maturity. What are we looking at from the day of transplanting up to day of harvesting? What are we looking at?
On plant population, we will be mainly looking at the number of plants that we have per hectare. Not the hectare per se,
yes,
but it is numbers that we'll be looking at. So per hectare, we are looking at from 650,000 to 1 million plants that you can actually grow per hectare. So that is also depends with your market, what is it that they want in terms of the bulb size that they want. That is what you'll be looking at when you're doing your transplanting. That is very, very important to know. The plant population, it's also effect on the bulb size that you eventually have.
Okay, now in terms of maturity, what are we looking at from transplanting up to harvesting? And what signs do you look at when it comes to harvesting? Do you look at just wilting, the exposure of the bulb from the ground when it comes to the surface? What are we looking at, those signs that would say, you know what, my onion is now mature, let me harvest it and put it in storage? Or
maturing indices that we look at when we are looking at onion. First things first, you should know the planting date. You should know this variety that I've selected. That's why we also recommend farmers to use hybrid varieties, because they are known to say this is Ada variety. It matures in 75 to 85 days. So within that range of days, it would have matured. So the farmer will be ready to sell that variety. That is number one, days to maturity, the farmer must know. There are also other things that the farmer can see on the onion itself. I would show you in this field here, we have got onion. When your onion has fallen, the neck, it should have a thin neck. That is also very, very important to know. When you're selecting a variety to grow, you should have a thin neck.
Okay.
It's a very good aspect that a farmer should know. This thin neck would also allow now these leaves to fall. The neck fall is this is another index, maturing index that you see. When you see your field with the crop that has fallen, has neck fallen, about 75 to 80% neck fallen like this, it means your onion has reached maturity. The other thing is about the color of your bulbs. Remember, when you're planting onions, the bulb should be forming on the top of the bed, so you should be able to see the changing in color of the bulb, the gold type. That's another index that you'll be looking at to say my onion has reached maturity. So that's what normally guides you to say my onion has reached its maturity.
Thank you so much, Clemens. That was very detailed. On that note, looking at maturity indices, we're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Welcome back, viewers. You are watching Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030, where we discuss everything business fundamentals in agriculture. We also look at business principles that you need to employ in your enterprise as a farmer so that you are viable and profitable and you get the the return per dollar invested. Now, viewers, we are here in the second segment. Welcome back. We encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, Wadzanai Manyore. It's on 0772807506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Zanai, leave your comments and suggestions, and make a follow-up on this episode and more on our YouTube channel, Agribusiness with Zanai. You can also like and follow our timeline, where we are always having these episodes and most of these discussions. It's on Twitter, it's at Agribusiness 110. Clemens, we are here in the second segment. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Now, Clemens, I would also want us to touch on crop nutrition, on onion production. Do we have basal fertilizer from transplanting? Do we have top dressing? And what are those elements that you would want to highlight on that are crucial and important in onions production?
Thank you very much. Yes, onions, they really need those nutrients, that is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. and other micro elements, that is boron, sulfur, and the like. But now, for each farmer to know how much disease that they need at their field, we recommend that they do a soil test analysis, a food test analysis that will now guide them how much of nitrogen, how much of potassium, how much of phosphorus that they need at their field. But as Mudumeni Wemari,
Yes.
give a general, rough rule recommendation that we do, but this we will normally give it to those who want to do small places. But if you want to do commercially, we recommend soil test. So as for the rough rule of thumb in terms of fertilizer application, we recommend you use compound S about 600 kgs per hectare that you do all at transplanting. It should be applied as basal at transplanting. Remember, you cannot correct this. Once you've transplanted your onion without applying the basal fertilizer, it will be very difficult now to come and with the basal again to try and correct. No, it does not work that way. We also encourage farmers to use the organic fertilizers that are now there on the market that you can be used to drench, especially on the day of transplanting. Then after that, yes, top dressing, we need the likes of ammonium nitrate, but not more than 150 kgs per hectare. Remember, onion, it normally needs to dry. So the other thing that we normally have with more application of nitrogen, you end up with bull necks. You have seen those onions with very thick necks, and it will be very difficult to cure such an onion. And we recommend that you come as early as 3 to 4 weeks with your top dressing so that your fertilizer will be used when the crop is growing. You can also use substitute your ammonium nitrate with your calcium nitrate. It does very well in terms of the crop that is needed there. And as for other foliar sprays, talking of the which provides you with magnesium, sulfur, and all. Yes, there are other foliar ranges that a farmer can use on their field.
Now, Clement, you touched on a pertinent issue that speaks to curing of the onions. Can you touch briefly on onion curing ahead before we talk about pests and diseases that might be a nuisance?
Thank you very much. Onion curing, first things first, you really need to know the variety to grow, because there are other varieties like I mentioned the Texas granules. That one you cannot cure it no matter how much you try. We recommend the use of hybrid varieties, talk of Dina, talk of Saturn. Those are the varieties, Regent, that you can actually cure. Those are curable varieties. That is number one. Number two, it has to do with nutrition. It has to be on point. Basal at transplanting, your top dressing within 3 to 4 weeks. Then after that, the maturing indices that we mentioned earlier on. Once your field crop has reached neck 4, say 90%, you really need to come in and uproot your onion and let it to dry in the field. Remember, days to transplant are very, very, very important. So normally your onion, it reaches maturing indices around October, September, October, thereabout. It will be very shiny and hot. So you can actually windrow your field, your crop in your field, leave it there for about 2 weeks to dry using the sun. You can always turn your onion in there. But if you have drying facilities like your barns, remember, tobacco farmers during that time of the year, they can actually use their barns to cure their onion, because we don't really need much coal. I know tobacco farmers with their coal, it comes costly. You'll be looking at the temperature ranges between 28 to 30 Celsius degrees and more air that will be blowing the crop, just to make sure it will cure well. And remember, when you are uprooting your onion for curing, make sure you make no bruises to the onion, because those bruises will now make entrance for infection. Yeah, so we make sure there are no bruises. You take it to your barn, you dry it in your barn. Remember, barns will be lying idle during that time of the year. So we can actually make use of the barns and cure our onion and put it onto the market. 6 months later, we are talking of March, April, May, right up to August, you'll be selling your onion quite good, in quite good condition, those golden brown onion varieties that you see in the supermarkets.
Now, Clement, let us look at pest and disease management in onion production.
Thank you very much. On pest, I'll start from transplanting. Your land preparation should be done very well to start with. Remember, a field with chaff, it brings in lots of cutworm. So you really need to treat cutworm right from transplanting. That is pest that will attack you to start with. That is for cutworm. And you may also need to test for nematodes. Yes, onions are affected by nematodes. You really need to treat those ones in your field. That is number 2. Number 3, the other notorious pest that we talk of in an onion crop is thrips. Thrips, they are quite challenging. A farmer should be in the field scouting, looking for such pests and all. And of course, locusts and other leptopterans at a lesser effect. Those ones could affect, but mainly thrips. That's where you now see silver-like patches on your onion leaves. It's caused by thrips that are normally will be there at the center of the leaves. There'll be tiny insects that you see there at the on your onion crop. So if you use that, your crop you will be very clean. If you come and do your sprays, your scouting, spraying time, I think your crop will be very clean.
Okay, thank you so much, Clement. On that note, viewers, of looking at pests that might be a nuisance in onion production, we're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the third and final segment. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, viewers. You are watching Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. Now, today we are talking of commercial onion production. We are standing in a demonstration plot that is specifically designed for trials. And I am joined by Clemens Muchareze, an expert in onion production. Clemens, we are here in the third and final segment. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Now, let us talk about diseases. Earlier on, we spoke of pests, but we also have diseases that might come with producing your onion at your farm. And how do you control those?
Yes, onion is a very easy crop to grow if you are very if you scout your field regularly and look onto the diseases really and be able to identify them. To start with, after transplanting, you may see lots of dumping off. That will be there. You need to come in with chemicals like the likes of azoxastrobin that you spray in your crop to make sure that your crop is very clean and is free of such diseases. And the other thing with the disease is we always go back to say good selection of the variety. The hybrid varieties, they are tolerant, they are resistant to these diseases. Number 2, there's pepper blotch. Normally you see the tips of onion going down, drying out. So you'd see that pepper blotch affecting your crop. That is the most disease that you normally see in an onion crop. But using curative fungicides, you won't see any of that thing of tepoconazole. Such are chemicals that you can use in your crop to make sure that your crop is very clean. The other issue to do with disease, we can talk of powder mildew and down mildew. Those ones, they can also be cured using the fungicides I mentioned earlier. But it's also a function of our nutrition. Things like powdery mildew, you'll be putting lots of nitrates in your crop. So you really need to manage your crop. Like we said earlier on, you really need to test your soil so that you know how much of nitrogen do I have to apply in my field. And the use of organic fertilizers, your field will be very clean.
Clemens, in terms of weed management in onion production, do we have any herbicides that are specifically designed to control weeds in onion production?
Yes, correctly. There are quite a number on the market, but the commonly used by farmers is that oxfluorphen is the active ingredient that is used by farmers. But however, when using such an herbicide, you really need to work with those ones who sell such chemicals to say they'll give you the spraying program. Because you may scorch the whole field if you are not very careful. So they will tell you the dose, how much are you going to do in terms of application rate, crop stage, and the like. You really need to know, even identifying the weeds that you want to attack in your field. But using a herbicide in your onion crop, that's the best thing that a farmer can do. It's very easy to abandon an onion crop as good as this because it would have been enveloped by weeds.
In terms of post-harvest maintenance or reducing post-harvest losses, what are your sentiments and your word of advice to our commercial farmers, onion commercial farmers?
To start with, we always go back again to the variety selection. the ones that take you longer. No matter how much good infrastructure you may have in terms of storing your crop, if you have a wrong variety like the Texas, it cannot last you longer. Number two, you need a well-ventilated, moisture-free environment where you keep your onion. It should be well-ventilated. Remember, it creates sulfur in it, so it should be well-ventilated such that there's air that will be free-flowing in wherever your crop will be stored. And also do some checks here and there to see if there are some bulbs that are bruised that you do not notice, because once it starts rotting, it will rot the whole pocket, it rots the whole section where it will be. So those are key points that a farmer should know. And also maintaining temperatures. You really need low temperatures so that it remains in good condition for that long time that you want to store your onion.
Finally, people want to know about markets. In terms of market expectations, maybe there might be some differences in our preferences. Some might want fresh onions, whilst others might prefer dried onions. So in terms of market expectations, what can our farmers look at? And also touching on issues surrounding gluts and shortages.
Onion, like I said, it's grown once in a year, and storing it, you need to know how to do it. So the issue to do with storage is there's also a function of days to maturity for each variety. Seed selection comes also into play. Remember, the early maturing variety, they do not have a long shelf life. So we have varieties, talk of Saturn, talk of Dinner. They mature in 120 days that's when you harvest them. So they also have a much longer with respect to days that you can actually keep your onion. So the markets, they are always there, but what they'll be looking at is the bulb size. It has to be a very globe type, and the outer skin should be gold. So that's what they'll be looking at. Normally the markets are there, but what they do, they dictate. They know right now there's a glut in terms of supplies. So those ones who have done the hybrid varieties, they may actually hold on to their crop, waiting so that the other varieties that are for table market can be actually pushed on. They now come in with their crop later on. Starting from January, they'll be putting their crop slowly onto the market. So the issue there is also about seed selection and carrying, having a good storage facility just to keep your crop.
Okay, thank you so much, Clemens. It was a pleasure having you with us today. Maybe as we close, your recommendations generally when it comes to producing onions, your word of advice and recommendations to our farming community as we close.
Thank you very much. Onion, I would say it's a low-hanging fruit for any farmer. The only hassle that you have there is on transplanting. It really needs labor. Once you are done with transplanting, everything else can be done. Even a hectare can be managed by 2 people. Use of herbicides, use of mechanized spraying mechanism. And so once you harvest it, you can put it in your barn, dry it and sell later. But the issue now, it has to do with the markets. You really need to know, when should I put my onion onto the market? We come back to the selection of the variety that can last longer, that you have to have and put in your field and sell the produce later in the market. That's how you can make money from it. For your own information, with onion, you can actually have a $1 invested, you can get $5 to $6 in terms of returns that you get from your onion crop.
Thank you, Clemens. That was a very detailed presentation that we've had today.
Thank you very much.
There you had it, viewers. Today we're looking at onion production in a demonstration plot. It was a pleasure having you with us today, viewers. From me, your host, Zanai Manyore. I'm also on Instagram. It's W Manyore, and the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.